Hi there and welcome to Juicy Celeb Talks. Chaos erupted on The View following an explosive appearance by Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old former White House press secretary under Donald Trump. Known for her no-nonsense demeanor and sharp rhetoric, Leavitt delivered a fiery critique that left the show's hosts scrambling to defend themselves. Her bold performance not only highlighted the biases and contradictions inherent in the program, but also ignited a broader political firestorm, underscoring the growing divide between traditional media and emerging conservative voices. Leavitt didn't hold back, declaring, "There will be no progressiveness here." This statement set the tone for a contentious discussion that escalated quickly. The friction between Leavitt and The View began when Joy Behar, one of the show's outspoken co-hosts, dismissed Leavitt's rise to prominence by reducing her achievements to mere physical appearance. Behar's comments describing Leavitt as a 10 in Trump's eyes were perceived as condescending and sexist, especially coming from someone who has long identified as a feminist. Critics were quick to point out the hypocrisy of a show that claims to champion women while belittling those with differing political views. Rather than retreat, Leavitt stood her ground with precision, calling out the co-hosts for their double standards and unwillingness to acknowledge her professional accomplishments. She also emphasized the persistent bias of the program, accusing it of regularly disparaging Trump with falsehoods and inflammatory comparisons, even likening him to Hitler. Leavitt's fiery rebuttal resonated with many Americans who have grown increasingly frustrated with the perceived partiality of mainstream media outlets like The View. Whoopi Goldberg, a central figure on the show, attempted to steer the discussion in a different direction, framing Leavitt's comments as an attack on progressivism. Goldberg accused Leavitt of failing to grasp the significance of progressive movements, equating them to the fight for civil rights and women's empowerment. She insinuated that Leavitt's position as press secretary was merely a result of her looks, asserting she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. Goldberg's remarks were inflammatory, claiming that such rhetoric would appeal to crazy people who believe in lies. Leavitt, however, wasn't fazed. She dismantled Goldberg's arguments with clarity, distinguishing between genuine social progress and the performative activism often championed by media elites. She pointed out the show's tendency to blur the lines between identity politics and meaningful change, advocating for merit and accountability over superficial, agenda-driven narratives. This stance struck a chord with viewers tired of divisive rhetoric. The exchange grew even more heated when Leavitt turned her attention to broader issues within traditional media, including The View. She criticized the show for its frequent accusations against conservatives of spreading conspiracy theories while simultaneously promoting baseless claims and misinformation. Her comments highlighted the irony of the hosts attacking figures like Elon Musk and Donald Trump with unfounded narratives, leaving the panel visibly unsettled. Leavitt's most impactful moment, however, came when she announced significant changes to the White House press pool. In a bold move, she revealed plans to replace 2 front-row seats, traditionally reserved for legacy media outlets, with spaces for new independent media voices. This initiative aimed to hold the media accountable for years of biased reporting and misinformation. Additionally, she restored press passes for 440 journalists who had been denied access under the Biden administration, signaling a commitment to transparency and inclusivity. This decisive action sent shockwaves through traditional media, including The View. Sunny Hostin, one of the co-hosts, openly mocked the idea of granting such access to new media reporters, arguing that only legacy outlets were qualified to cover the White House. Goldberg echoed this sentiment, warning that Leavitt's changes could result in unqualified individuals spreading false information. Viewers were quick to note the irony of these statements, given The View's own history of pushing half-truths and partisan narratives. Leavitt's appearance on the show further solidified her reputation as a fearless advocate for conservative principles. When the hosts attempted to corner her on Trump's immigration policies, she skillfully flipped the narrative, reminding them that violating immigration laws constitutes a crime. Her ability to remain composed and articulate under pressure demonstrated her capability to counter their attempts to discredit her. Critics of The View argue that the show's hosts were exposed for their hypocrisy, bias, and inability to engage in meaningful dialogue with opposing viewpoints. Leavitt's takedown of their arguments amplified calls for accountability, with many viewers expressing frustration over the show's role in perpetuating division and misinformation. Meanwhile, Leavitt's changes to the White House press pool have been widely praised by conservative audiences. By giving new media voices a platform and holding traditional outlets accountable, she is challenging the dominance of legacy media and forcing them to adapt to a rapidly changing landscape. Her efforts have drawn comparisons to past press secretaries who reshaped the role, but her emphasis on transparency and fairness sets her apart. The controversy surrounding The View and Leavitt's reforms highlights a broader cultural shift in American media. As more people turn to alternative sources for news and analysis, traditional platforms like The View are struggling to maintain relevance. Leavitt's unapologetic approach to calling out bias and holding power accountable represents a new wave of leadership that resonates with audiences seeking authenticity and integrity. In the wake of this explosive confrontation, the future of The View remains uncertain. With increasing scrutiny and a growing disconnect from its audience, the show faces significant challenges in regaining trust and credibility. Meanwhile, Leavitt continues to rise as a prominent voice in conservative politics, proving that she is more than capable of standing up to the media establishment. Did Karoline Leavitt expose the hypocrisy of The View? Or is this just another example of partisan media drama? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates on this unfolding story. Leavitt's willingness to challenge the status quo of mainstream media reflects the growing dissatisfaction many Americans feel toward traditional outlets. In an era where trust in legacy media is at an all-time low, voices like Leavitt's are seen by some as refreshing and necessary. Her appearance on The View highlighted not only the ideological divide between conservative and liberal media perspectives, but also the unwillingness of some established outlets to engage in genuine discourse. A significant point of contention during the exchange was The View's repeated characterization of Trump and other conservative figures as dangerous or untrustworthy. This persistent narrative has led to accusations that the show operates less as a platform for balanced debate and more as a mouthpiece for partisan attacks. Leavitt's sharp rebuke of these tactics resonated with viewers who are increasingly skeptical of mainstream media's motives and narratives. One of the most striking moments came when Leavitt called out the hypocrisy of feminist claims made by the show's hosts. While The View often positions itself as a champion of women's rights and empowerment, Leavitt pointed out the contradiction in reducing her success to mere physical appearance. The idea that a woman can only achieve prominence due to her looks, rather than her skills or accomplishments, is a stereotype that many feminists have fought against. Yet, this narrative was perpetuated by the very hosts who claim to advocate for women. Leavitt's response to this criticism was calculated and powerful. She highlighted her professional background, detailing her rise to one of the most demanding positions in American politics. She emphasized that her qualifications, work ethic, and dedication to conservative principles had earned her the role, not superficial factors like appearance. This rebuttal struck a chord with viewers who appreciated her refusal to be diminished by dismissive commentary. Furthermore, her critique of performative activism resonated with those who believe that many media personalities and public figures prioritize virtue signaling over substantive action. By drawing a clear line between authentic social progress and shallow gestures, Leavitt positioned herself as a voice of reason in a media landscape often clouded by empty rhetoric. The implications of Leavitt's policy changes to the White House press pool were also far-reaching. By opening up access to independent media voices, she signaled a shift toward greater inclusivity and accountability. This move was seen as a direct challenge to the dominance of legacy media, which has long held privileged access to political institutions. For many conservatives, this decision represented a victory for transparency and fairness. However, not everyone viewed these changes positively. Critics, including some of The View's co-hosts, warned that granting access to independent media could lead to the spread of misinformation. Goldberg's assertion that only legacy outlets are qualified to cover the White House was met with backlash from viewers who questioned the credibility of those same outlets. The irony was not lost on the audience, given The View's history of promoting controversial narratives without substantiating evidence. Leavitt's ability to maintain composure and articulate her points despite aggressive pushback demonstrated her readiness to engage with difficult conversations. Her insistence on holding media figures accountable for their biases and misinformation has made her a polarizing yet influential figure. Supporters view her as a trailblazer challenging a flawed media system, while detractors accuse her of perpetuating division. As the fallout from her appearance on The View continues, it is clear that the discussion surrounding media accountability and political bias is far from over. The growing influence of independent media voices, coupled with the declining trust in legacy outlets, signals a transformative moment in American media. Leavitt's unapologetic approach to these issues suggests that she will remain a key player in this evolving landscape. The confrontation on The View serves as a reminder that meaningful discourse requires more than just opposing opinions. It demands a willingness to listen, engage, and challenge assumptions. Whether one agrees with Leavitt's views or not, her presence on the show highlighted the need for a media environment that values authenticity, transparency, and accountability. In the end, the legacy of this fiery exchange will depend on how media figures, political leaders, and viewers respond to the growing demand for integrity in journalism. As Leavitt continues to rise as a prominent conservative voice, her impact on the political and media landscape is likely to be both significant and enduring.